Hello, this is Chelsea Scheidel, Emily Bergemeyer, TJ Kimmich, and Liam Moser. We have completed a project on fraud. There are many different kinds of fraud. We've inserted a video link to help you gain a greater understanding.
Fraud is wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial personal gain. In 2016, for the fourth consecutive year, the nation's consumer leagues Fraud.org received more complaints. Fraud has increased from 7% from 2015. Internet merchandise scams are also becoming more expensive for the victims, with the median loss of $450, leaving an increase of 67.9% in 2016.
Another example of fraud is money laundering. Money laundering is the process of creating the appearance that large amounts of money obtained from serious crimes originated from a legitimate source. Some examples of money laundering are drug trafficking, terrorism, fraud, robbery, prostitution, illegal gambling, arms trafficking, bribery, and corruption. All money laundering scandals seem legitimate. They are highly illegal and highly common.
So another example of fraud would be Ponzi schemes. And Ponzi schemes are basically just run by using new investors' money from new investors to pay off promised investors already in the scheme. So the term Ponzi comes from Charles Ponzi. He's one of the first people to commit this type of fraud back in the 1900s. They attract investors by offering high return in a short amount of time, and they're normally legitimate. But Bernie Madoff is the most famous Ponzi scheme person around. He made off with $65 billion of people's money, and he was found guilty of 11 counts of fraud, money laundering, perjury, and theft. So that's pretty big. And then Alan Stanford is next on the list with $8 billion. He was a sports sponsor. He used that to get his investors and the popularity. And then we have Tom Peters, who made off with $3.7 billion. That was through wire and mail fraud and money laundering. He was also a owner of the company Polaroid, as you can see on the slide.
Embezzlement is also another example of fraud. It's known as employee theft. Embezzlement can go from a bank teller who pockets deposits to an attorney who uses the funds in an escrow account for herself. Factors of embezzlement is it must be a fiduciary relationship between two parties. The defendants must have acquired the property through the relationship. The defendant must take ownership of the property or transfer it to someone else, and the defendant's actions are intentional.
Identity theft happens when fraudsters access enough information about someone's identity, such as their name, date of birth, current or previous address, to commit identity fraud. Identity theft can take place whether the fraud victim is alive or deceased. If you're a victim of identity theft, it can lead to fraud that can have direct impact on your personal finances and can also make it difficult for you to obtain loans, credit cards, or a mortgage until the matter is resolved.
Next, we have identity fraud. Identity fraud can be described as the use of that stolen identity in criminal activity to obtain goods or services by deception. Fraudsters can use your identity details to open bank accounts, get credit cards, loans, state benefits in your name, order goods in your name, and take over your existing accounts or take out mobile phone contracts, things you don't want being done on your name, or obtain genuine documents such as passports and driving license in your name. So it could be pretty scary.